Well, good day, beautiful people. Here we are on the Bible in a Year 2021, day 43, Exodus 39 to 40 is what we're dealing with today. And welcome to the end of Exodus. It's pretty amazing stuff. So you've done Genesis, right? And yeah, so we're finishing off Exodus here. You guys should feel accomplished. Good stuff. It's not a lot today that we need to cover. Just some things that we want to point out here in Exodus 39, 32. In this way, all the work of the meeting tent dwelling was finished. The Israelites did everything, everything, did everything just exactly as the Lord had commanded. This is a repeating phrase. You hear this throughout the two chapters. It is really an emphasis on the obedience here. They did exactly as Yahweh had commanded Moses to do. And this is in contrast to all the rough period that they have gone through. There should be a settling down now. There should be an element of trust. Yahweh had been providing for them. He has defended them. He's putting in a just society here. It's the dust should be settling. It's been a year. It's been a year since he's rescued them, since he's brought them out. That's a year of development of that relationship. So we see here it's almost like a a high point of this relationship now that they're doing everything that they were commanded to do. And here we see a natural response, and this is something that we should understand. It should help us understand our Father's heart better. Okay, it should help us understand what our natural response should be. When we read in Exodus 39, verses 42 to 43, the Israelites did all of the work just as the Lord had commanded Moses. When Moses saw that they, in fact, had done all the work exactly as the Lord had commanded, Moses blessed them. It wasn't that he was holding anything back. It was just this response, this when he saw it, he himself was so blessed. He was so pleased that these these stiff-necked people had given themselves over to doing exactly what the Lord had asked, and it was just this response. And this should help us to understand our Father's response when we walk in that obedience, and we're empowered by love to walk in that obedience. When we do as He asks, it's not the blessing isn't so much a reward as it is, and He is a rewarder, but it's a reaction. It's a response. It's a natural response to obedience. Is that pouring out of blessings? Parents love their children, but there's certainly more blessing that is involved in children who are obedient than who are not obedient. And it's not even necessarily a willful thing from the parents, but is a natural response. It is so much easier and natural to bless when you are blessed by children of obedience. And this is the whole nature. This is what uh, this is like. This is this natural flow of blessing. And you know what it's like. You know how much easier it is um, to 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 just give blessing, to be generous in those situations. We're commanded in love that we shouldn't be prejudiced by um, you know, by somebody who doesn't like us, somebody who considers themselves our neighbor, somebody who does bad things. Love will provoke us to do good things for those people. But we don't have to be provoked to do good things for those who bless us, because it is just a natural response that we have in that. So I hope that comes across. So then we go into the last chapter here of Exodus. Um, chapter 40, verse 16. And just as the Israelites had done everything that Yahweh had commanded Moses, so Moses had passed on this instruction and they had followed it through. So, in order to obey Yahweh, they were obeying Moses, and by obeying Moses, they had obeyed Yahweh. Now we see that Moses did everything exactly as the Lord had commanded him. Moses did everything exactly as the Lord had commanded him. He set up. Now that everything is made, they set it up. That's what they're in process doing, setting up the whole thing. And Moses followed the exact placed everything exactly where Yahweh said it needed to be placed. And then verse 17, it's beautiful timing. That's all we can say. Look at this. In the first month, in the second year, so it's the beginning of the new year. It's the beginning of their second year now. On the first day of that month, so here we are on the first day of the new year, the dwelling was set up. So exactly 1 year from the day that of the Passover, when they were taken out of Egypt, they have now set up this place of worship, this place where they get to offer sacrifice. This has been established now, and they really have come into their own now. They've come into their own isn't right term, but you know what I mean. They're now formed as a nation. They are a people. They have a law. They have their system of worship. They have at least some form of the leadership that's in place. We have Moses, who is really he's that emergency leader. He's that's not going to what could be what leadership looks like going forward. This is an emergency leader. This is basically the person who's placed, the midwife, if you want to put it that way, not the parent, but the midwife that is helping this thing being born. He will be removed, and a proper leader will eventually be put in place, or a proper leader isn't a proper king, if you want to put it that way. And we have the high priest, we have the whole priesthood aspect that is put in place. We have the judge system that is in place. So we have the high judge, and who is Moses at this time, and but it's yet to have the prophetic office yet set up, but that's coming. Okay, so as a nation, pretty well everything is in place now, and they are the nation of Israel. Even they don't have a land yet, but they're heading towards that land. So the first thing was to establish them as a people. That is done. To establish them as a people who belong to Yahweh. That is done. They have their laws that they are to follow now. So this is all now established. You can't have a society without laws. It's the laws that help put that all together. And then we have something interesting here in Exodus 40, 33 to 35. Moses had finished all the work. When Moses had finished all the work, the cloud covered the meeting tent, and the Lord's glorious presence filled the dwelling. Moses couldn't enter the meeting tent because the cloud had settled on it, and the Lord's glorious presence filled the dwelling. Before, in the tent that Moses had set up until the elaborate tent had been made, when he went into the tent, the cloud of the presence would descend and stay at the doorway, and that's when the people saw that they would bow and they would worship. In this case, it's the cloud of the presence that has entered into this tent, and it's Moses who has to stand on the outside. It's different, and I just want to point out here that just think of this for the moment. Moses couldn't enter into that place. Okay, this is Moses who got to taste of the goodness. The Lord had revealed his goodness before him. The Lord had declared his name before Moses. Moses got to see the back end of his glory. But yet Moses couldn't go into the presence. Yet we have the presence of the Lord dwell in us. Just think about that. We have the presence of the Lord dwell in us. That's an amazing thing. It's something we take for granted, but we shouldn't. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit have taken up residence in us. We are the temple. here, here, the cloud is coming to occupy this temporary temple that has been set up, but it also occupies this our bodies, our temporary temple, and we always need to keep that in mind, that we need to respect this temple because it is also the dwelling place of the presence of God. That's just amazing stuff, I gotta tell you. And then just to have here, just a couple things to point out at the end. Um, it's so important that we see that these people were being directed by Yahweh. The whole idea is not to make this nation independent of Yahweh, but to make them dependent on Yahweh, because they don't have the wisdom that they need to have, but that wisdom is available to them from Yahweh. They don't have the strength that they need to have, but that's available to them in Yahweh. They can't provide for themselves at this time, but that provision is found in Yahweh. They were to learn dependence. They were learning to lean into Him. And so we see here, whenever the cloud rose from the dwelling, the Israelites would set out on their journey. But if the cloud didn't rise, then they didn't set out until the day it rose. So they learned to follow this, but this was supposed to be just their way of life. This is what they were supposed to be like all the time. That they didn't go off and do their own thing. That their whole life was just focused around Yahweh, because He had grown them as a nation for His purposes. They weren't a people who came to be a nation because they lived in a certain geographical area, and they weren't united by some king and some army or something like that. Their whole thing, everything, it's like Moses said, like, we're nothing without you. Like, if you're not going with us, we don't send us, because we're nothing without you. It's you who makes us. It's you who makes us a nation. It's you who makes us a people. It's you who makes us distinct. Your presence is what makes us a distinct people. Um, yeah, and then to end off with this is really important for us to understand, and there's a difference between then and today. It says the Lord's cloud stayed over the dwelling during the day, with lightning in it at night, clearly visible to the whole household of Israel at every stage of their journey, at every stage of their journey. It was so important because He was their encouragement. His presence was their encouragement. His presence gave them boldness. His presence defined them. It was so important that they were able to see the presence of Yahweh. It's different for us today because it's not a seeing with our eyes. It's a seeing with the heart. We know, it's we know from conversation. We know. Uh, it's so hard to describe to people, isn't it? It's just like it's a knowing, just like, um, yeah. Is it like anything else? We hear His voice because we've grown sensitive to Him, so we can hear Him. We can feel Him. He speaks with the pleasure that He pours into us. He speaks with the blessing He gives to us. He speaks with the dreams and the visions. He's constantly talking to us. We hear Him through the voices around us. The more we obey Him, the more sensitive we become towards Him, the more distinct His voice is to us. And we live by His promises. We live by the promises He has given to us. There is that prophetic element. We have the word, which speaks to us all day, but we also have that prophetic element that gives us that makes that word living, that gives us what we need today, our daily bread today. It gives us the direction. It helps us to understand what the word is saying to us today. It's different. It's different because in that moment, if for some reason the cloud disappeared, the people would panic. But we know that this is a matter of the heart. This is a matter of the kingdom. This is a matter, like, we know He'll never leave us. He'll never forsake us. We don't need to see Him for that, because we feel His presence. We acknowledge, we feel His presence, and we live by that promise. And on those days that we feel separated, on those days that, because of tiredness or illness or circumstances, we've gone dull to His presence, and then that's when we're walking in that faith, in that trust in His promises, that He'll never leave us and never forsake us. And I think every one of us has had that, haven't we? Every one of us has had that sense of deafness at one point or another, where we've lost our sensitivity to Him, and we have to go by those promises. We live by every word that comes from His mouth. We live by every word that comes from His mouth. That is so important for us. So there you go. There's the end of Exodus. And tomorrow we start on Leviticus. So that's great. You have completed Genesis, Job, and Exodus now. And just a few more books to go, right? Okay. Love you guys. Glad you're on this journey. You be blessed. Open yourselves to the Lord, and you're going to get to hear so much from Him. God bless.